synonyms, so words that mean the same, are powerful, so like we said, gigantic, and strong. Some antonyms of this word are weak. If somebody's weak, they're not strong at all. And if they're tiny, that's the opposite as well. That's an antonym, because these shovels definitely aren't tiny if they're mighty, are they? And helpless. Now, if something is helpless, it's not very good for the job. So we can't say that these shovels are helpless, can we? Because look at the hole that they've dug. Now, let's use this word in a different context. So here I've got the mighty lion roared with a rumble that shook the jungle trees. Okay, so because the lion has such a big roar and it shook the jungle trees, we can say it's mighty because I'm guessing it's a very big lion if it has a roar that is that loud and has such a big impact on the jungle trees around it. Okay, so let's carry on reading. Next page, we're on page 26. Keep going, my darlings, panted Mr. Fox. Don't give up. Keep going, the fat boggis shouted to Bunce and Bean. We'll get him any moment. Have you caught sight of him yet? Bean called back. Not yet, shouted Boggis, but I think you're close. I'll pick him up with my bucket, shouted Bunce. I'll chop him to pieces. But by lunchtime, the machines were still at it, and so were the poor foxes. The hill now looked like this. Look, it looks like a big slope. Can you see all of the hill that they've dug out there? The farmers didn't stop for lunch. They were too keen to finish the job. Hey there, Mr. Fox, yelled Bunce, leaning out of his tractor. We're coming to get you now. You've had your last chicken, yelled Boggis. You'll never come prowling around my farm again. Oh, prowling around my farm? What does that mean, prowling around my farm? Well, we know that fantastic Mr. Fox went to the farmer's farm to get chickens, okay? And he always went at night. Now, why did he go at night? He went at night so nobody would see him. So what might that mean that prowl means? Maybe quite secretive. Let's find out. Well, prowl is a verb, okay? It's describing an action. And it means to move around quietly in a place, trying not to be seen or heard. So yes, because fantastic Mr. Fox went to the farm at night, he was prowling because he didn't want anybody to see him. And remember, he would tiptoe, he would edge forward, wouldn't he? So therefore, he didn't want to be heard. Now, some synonyms for this, so words that mean the same thing. Sneak, so if you sneak around, you don't want anybody to see you, or creep, the same, okay? So those two are synonyms for prowl. Now, you could say the burglars prowled around the shop, okay? So they didn't want anybody to see them because they wanted to take maybe some yummy chocolate, okay? So they prowled so that nobody heard them or saw them so they wouldn't get in trouble. Okay. A sort of madness had taken hold of the three men. The tall, skinny Bean and the dwarfish, pot-bellied Bunce were driving their machines like maniacs, racing the motors and making the shovels dig at a terrific speed. The fat Boggis was hopping about like a dervish and shouting, "Faster! Faster!" By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, this is what had happened to the hill. Can you see at the bottom? You can't see a hill. It looks like two cliffs next to each other. Okay, next page. What's going to happen next? The hole the machines had dug was like the crater of a volcano. It was such an extraordinary sight that crowds of people came rushing out from the surrounding villages to have a look. They stood on the edge of the crater and stared down at Boggis and Bunce and Bean. Hey there, Boggis! What's going on? We're after a fox. You must be mad. The people jeered and laughed. Oh, so the people jeered and laughed. So they've just told Boggis and Bunce and Bean that they're mad for trying to catch a fox. So if they're laughing at them, what might jeering mean? Because they obviously don't think it's a very good idea. They're calling them mad. Oh, Jeer is a verb because obviously it's an action, isn't it? It's something that somebody does. Somebody is jeering. And it means to make fun of someone loudly, okay? So they're laughing at him and then laughing at them and then making fun of them for trying to catch the fox. So some synonyms for this are mock. So if you mock somebody, you make fun of them. You tease somebody or you heckle somebody, which is when you make fun of them as well. Now, another context that you could use the word jeer in is don't jeer at the person who came last in the race. It isn't very kind. So don't make fun of the person that came last in the running race because it's not very kind. So jeer means that they're making fun. So everybody's making fun of the farmers for trying to catch the fox. But this only made the three farmers more furious and more obstinate and more determined than ever not to give up until they had caught the fox. Okay, well, it tells us here that it made the farmers more furious and more obstinate. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean angry because we've got the word furious there, and it doesn't mean determined. They really want to catch the fox. So let's find out what obstinate means. Well, it's an adjective because it's describing how they're feeling, and it means when you're not willing to change your opinion. So you might be obstinate about changing your opinion. Now, some synonyms for this are stubborn. Okay, so the farmers are being stubborn. They're being obstinate because they don't want to stop chasing the fox. Even though all of those people are laughing and jeering at them, they are not going to change their opinion on wanting to catch the fox. Now, in another context, you could say, although the boy knew he was wrong, he was too obstinate to admit it. Okay, so even though he knew he was wrong, he didn't want to admit it. He wasn't willing to tell people that he was wrong. Okay, so we've finished reading this chapter. So let's look at our first retrieval question. So it's what would happen when the foxes gained some ground? So remember, gain some ground means they got further away from the farmers. So let's have a look at the key words in this question. Well, firstly, we have our question word what, okay? And when we have the question word what, we are looking for a specific thing, okay? So that could be a person, that could be an object. It's a specific thing, okay? Sorry, it couldn't be a person because that's for who. It has to be a specific thing or an object. What would happen when the foxes gained some ground? So the next key word is gained some ground, okay? Now the foxes are the ones that gained some ground. So when they got further ahead. So we can look through the text and see if we can find the words gained some ground and foxes, okay? So let's have a look. Here is the part of the text that we need to look at. Sometimes the foxes would gain a little ground and the clanking noises, here we go, gain a little ground. So I found that in the text. I found that very phrase in the text, that exact phrase. Sometimes the foxes would gain a little ground and the clanking noises would grow fainter and Mr. Fox would say, we're going to make it, I'm sure we are. So there you go, it says the clanking noises would grow fainter. And Mr. Fox would say, we're going to make it, I'm sure we are. So there you go, just for looking for those key words in the question, gained some ground, we have then found the part of the text that we need. And we've carried on reading and we found that the clanking noises would grow fainter and Mr. Fox would say, we're going to make it. I'm sure we are. So shall we have a look at the answer that I wrote for this question? Well, I wrote, remember, we always write in a full sentence, don't we? We never just put the clanking noises would grow fainter. We start our sentence at the beginning. When the foxes gained some ground, so look, I've taken that exactly from the question and put it into my answer. When the foxes gained some ground, the clanking noises would grow fainter and Mr. Fox would say, we're going to make it. I'm sure we are. So have I changed that from the text? No, I haven't, have I? I've just lifted it out of the text and put it straight in my answer. Those are the exact words that are in the text. When the foxes gained some ground, the clanking noises would grow fainter and Mr. Fox would say, we're going to make it. I'm sure we are. Okay, so we've looked at that one together. Now we have this second question here. What was Boggis doing while Bean and Bunce were driving the machines? Now, what are we looking for here? Well, our question word is what, okay, at the start. I've forgotten to highlight it. So the question word is what. So again, we are looking for a specific thing or object. And we're looking at what Boggis was doing. While, okay, what does while tell us? So they're doing it at the same time, okay? So while Bean and Bunce were driving the machines, what was Boggis doing? What specific thing was Boggis doing? And then it says, name two, okay? So are we going to name one thing he was doing? No, we're not. We're going to name two. So let's have a look at the part of the text where it tells us this. So, oh, here we go. The tall, skinny Bean and dwarfish, pot-bellied Bunce were driving their machines. So we've got driving their machines, and that's part of our question, driving the machines like maniacs, racing the motors and making the shovels dig at a terrific speed. The fat Boggis, oh, here we go, Boggis, that's who we want to know what he's doing. The fat Boggis was hopping around like a dervish and shouting faster, faster. So he was hopping around like a dervish and shouting faster and faster. So we have looked at this piece of text and we've highlighted all the key information. We've found the keyword in our question, keywords in our question, which were driving their machines. We found Boggis, and then afterwards we've carried on reading and we've highlighted exactly what Boggis was doing, which was hopping about like a dervish and shouting faster, faster. So now, using a full sentence, I would like you to write your answer to this question. And then when you're done on year 2 reading, 5th of February, resource 2, because remember resource 1 is the pages that you need. Resource 2, you have the rest of the questions that you need to answer. And don't forget to go back to question 1 that we did together and fill it in. And if you want to go back in this video, you can have a look at my answer to help you for that. Okay, well, have a lovely rest of your day, year 2, and I'll see you in our next reading lesson.